So background is I joined the military in February 2001. Started off in the Marine Corps, Camp Pendleton, California. After my first tour in Iraq, I got hurt, got out, the request of my parents, and then about a year and a half after, I decided to join back up. This time I went into the Army, went towards Special Forces, and been doing that ever since 2006 or so. So still going from there.
Awesome. And then you were efforting awareness for medical care for veterans.
Yeah, so it started in 2017. I ended up being diagnosed with stage 3A lung cancer. What it had turned out was I was going to dive school, and they actually knew about it because of my previous injury from being shot. I had to have CT scans in my lungs. Well, they knew about it. They documented it, sized it, noted everything, just never told me. And then later on when I got sick, the truth kind of came out. They were like, well, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you come in? And I was like, well, I never knew. And so they were like, well, it's been documented. Somebody should have told you. And so then that just kind of started it. And then in 2018, January, I ended up stage 4 terminal. And then it just kind of became I went to the hospital, talked to the commander, kind of just give him a heads up, like figure out, and just, there was just kind of this, nobody really cared. You know, it was like, oh, sorry. And so it just didn't really sit well with me. So as I realized what was going on and started learning, it was just like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Nobody really cares. And I didn't like the answer. And it just seemed like I couldn't be the only one. So I just, we kind of went out, found an attorney, and then went to DC, and it just turned into proposing a bill, turning it into a law that you could you can file a compensation and say it's not a lawsuit necessarily, but you can file compensation, and really in return what it was it was bringing forth the cases and the claims for awareness, because the more that are documented, the more that come forth, then the more it becomes an issue. So it wasn't necessarily just it was to compensate those that fairly needed it, but it was also a documentation of how many of these are going on out there, so that hopefully they can be stopped or mitigated, slowed down, or fixed.
Throughout this process, have you come across other individuals like yourself that suffered through, I would imagine?
Yeah, especially in the beginning when I was doing a lot more in DC, it was, I would be up almost every night, all night. I probably never slept much in the beginning, and really all over the world, anywhere there's a base or just somebody retired, I was just getting phone calls or emails or texts, and it was pretty rough for a while, because it was kind of like I was just this hotline, and people were just calling. And what I found was, nobody had ever cared, and really they just wanted somebody to listen to them. And so I could sympathize with it. And so the more I would listen to them, you could kind of hear a calming in their voice, and more, they just felt like somebody was actually hearing them. And so it became kind of important to me just to listen to them. And then it was definitely a heavy burden for a long time. But for what it's worth, I became sick in 2017. I'm still here. I'm not sure, like, the doctors had no reason to believe I'd be here. And so many of them are not. And that's, what's a few minutes out of my day to listen to them when I'm still sitting here breathing, and many of them have lost somebody.
Tell me a little bit about the law that it's in your name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
correct.
tell me about that.
So it's the Sergeant First Class Richard Stayskal Military Medical Accountability Act. Basically, so what it means is you have 3 years of retroactive date, so you can bring forth your claim, and you can file the claim against the service that the incident occurred. So you get an attorney, you file the claim, you bring it forth to DOD, to the department, and then they basically adjudicate the claim. So it's an admin claims process. It's by no means the most perfect, effective one. It's just the first one that's ever existed. So we're hoping to push another one in the future here. It's called the HEROES Act. Still really new, still fresh. That one is hopefully going to mitigate more of an actual process of going to court. So you can go there and you can have your attorney represent you in court, basically. But as of now, it's an admin process. Like I said, it's unfortunately not the best, but like we met with Congresswoman Spear, she's retired. But she always told me in the beginning, she's like, the door's open now. So it just takes time. Things don't move fast, but the hope is to keep it going and to keep adding on to it, making amendments to it to make it better.
Veteran Veterans Day is right around the corner, and you know, sometimes these are the kind of issues that, you know, people unfortunately sometimes overlook, you know, or is not, you know, in the front of everybody's mind. Like, how important is this kind of awareness and advocating, would you say?
It's really important. You know, what I learned a lot through a lot of this process was most of us, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I think most of the military and other branches out there, you know, firefighters, cops, all that stuff, we're only purposeful when things are bad. And we find that that's the only thing we're good at. So a lot of us self-destruct, so we tear ourselves down, tear our lives apart, because that's what we know. That's when we're at our best, is when things are just the worst. And I've been trying to really change the way I think about these kind of holidays and stuff, and because it's now it's more of a, what's the repurpose for you? How do you find that new sense of, you know, it doesn't need to be destructive to be important anymore. So it's been kind of a really, it's challenging to say the least, but it's because you really have to rewire the way you've been taught and trained and thought for so long. And there's just so many out there that are struggling, and I know it. I mean, I still am. I'm not going to ever say that I don't. It's hard, because it's almost like you get excited when it's going bad, because it's just like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. And then it becomes hard to like really enjoy like the purpose of the holiday. And so I think it's just important to you know, try to reflect on the holidays, remember who's out there, who's hurting, and try to help them find that new purpose, that new direction in life. Because it's just not easy, and so many of us, we just like to run and hide and say nobody cares, and when it's so opposite from that. I think there's so many people that care, but most of us learned through our failures or bad behavior or whatever in the service or in our certain jobs, others will suffer because of that. So it's easier to retract ourselves and take away and move away, you know? And I think, you know, a lot of that just, I'm not gonna say it's the sole reason, but trickles into, like, you know, the drug use and the homelessness, and just, it's easier to run and hide and just be, and not celebrate that. And I actually went through with a lot of buddies just with the Marine Corps birthday recently, and they're, for the first time, a lot of them were like, I have no clue what I'm celebrating. I'm not even sure why I thought this was a great idea. And it's nothing more than I think they've just lost the way of thinking, you know? And so a lot of us sat down and talked and tried to find that new direction, that new purpose, and hopefully go from there. But it's definitely a challenge.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you want to add or include or touch on?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to remind everybody, you know, it's everybody knows it's a community. And it's a community that everybody knows they want to be a part of. Everybody wants them to be a part of. And just not to forget that. It's like I said, it's so easy just to become a recluse and to say, yeah, you know, I'm sinking ship. I don't want to take anybody with me. And I think if everybody was really honest with themselves, they know that's not the truth. But it's hard to remember that, you know, and just want everybody just, you know, try to remember not to give up. There's somebody out there that cares about them, that wants to talk to them. I mean, anybody can track me down. I'll talk to anybody. You know, I'm pretty gullible. If somebody's lying to me, I'll believe you anyway. So, but, you know, I think it's important that the veterans take care of themselves, but then we're also taking care of the like-minded veterans, our cops, firefighters, all those, you know, EMTs. They're just as important out there. That whole community in and out of the service is so big and important. I mean, I remind my daughters daily about that this world wouldn't function without those folks, you know. And if we don't have them to continue to go on with good habits, good thoughts and mindfulness, where's the next generation that's going to continue that? And I don't want to lose that, because I think we're a sinking ship if we do.